Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. Welcome to our 2025 ski test. Today we're talking about this Faction Studio 2. Pretty interesting ski from Faction. It's actually just a name change for 2025. So this ski used to be the Mana 2. Now it is the Studio 2, and it also has this snazzy new top sheet graphic, which if it doesn't come through on camera, it looks awesome in person. I think they did a really good job with it, with the graphics. So Studio 2 now, used to be the Mana 2. This ski is 102 underfoot, and among that kind of 102 category, or kind of the 100 to 104 free ride category, those wider twin tips, this with its shape and overall performance, to me, it leans a little bit more towards park performance than a lot of skis in this world. And a lot of that is just from its shape, but it's kind of construction and its feel as well. So this ski has a relatively lightweight poplar wood core, but it is stiffer than a lot of skis that just use poplar because Faction adds some longitudinal carbon stringers, as well as a rubber and carbon stomp pad in here too. So with those things, it does give this ski, you know, not the stiffest flex pattern in the world, but for a 102 twin tip, like it's pretty stiff, which is kind of cool because that just gives it a ton of responsiveness, a ton of precision, while also being pretty darn playful. It's not too heavy, and obviously it's got that twin tip shape. Speaking of not too heavy, my scale just turned off. Couldn't have been worse timing. Throwing it on the scale here, this is a 178. We are just over 1,900 grams. So, you know, this is not a small ski by any means, but it's not heavy. 1,900 grams for being a 178 and 102 underfoot is pretty respectable. And when you combine that with that pretty darn responsive, not stiff, but energetic flex pattern, you get a very, very quick and agile ski that kind of reacts to your skier input very, very quickly and efficiently. Looking at its shape, the Studio 1 is a perfectly symmetrical ski. The Studio 2 here is not, which makes a lot of sense. You know, when you're up into the 102 width range, you don't really need something that's symmetrical, or you wouldn't really want something that's symmetrical, because we're opening up the world here. We're opening up the realm of possibilities beyond what would be a pretty darn focused park ski if it were truly still symmetrical. Got to flip it over to double check dimensions here. So this ski is 131, 102, 127. So a 4 millimeter difference between tip and tail width. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, that's pretty darn close to being symmetrical, and you would be right. And that's a huge reason why, to me, the Studio 2 here in that 102 underfoot twin tip world, it does lean more towards park. You know, it's going to be really, really good in the park. It's not as quick as something like the Studio 1 or even like a Prodigy 1 or anything that's kind of more like 90 underfoot for the park world. But it's perfectly capable, and then you can go and ski it off trail. You can ski it in soft snow. Really, really good for natural hits, side hits, all that kind of stuff. I'd say that's more and more popular now, is like taking park tricks and not necessarily bringing them to the backcountry. That's been a common theme for a long time, but taking park tricks and just like bringing them to groomers and bringing them to kind of like skied out off-piste scenarios or big rollers. And I think Faction, it's kind of a leader in that category. If you watch their movies, if you watch their athletes, a lot of them really think outside the box like that. And having a ski like the Studio 2 kind of perfectly matches that mentality. It's very, very capable in a wide range of conditions and terrain. You can handle groomers, but you can handle off-piste just fine. But then it does it all with this kind of balanced, modern, new school vibe, which is encouraging you, the skier, to like do a carved 540 off like a groomer roller. I think things like that are just awesome, and I think a really good way of thinking about the Studio 2. I'm very tempted to take this pair and slap some bindings on them because if you can't tell from the look on my face, all of those things are things that I really like to do. So I like the Studio 2 a lot. I liked it when it was the Mana 2. Yeah, it's a cool ski, and it's pretty unique, I think, with its shape and that kind of stiff or relatively stiff reactive flex pattern. So that's it. That is the Faction Studio 2. Let us know if you have any questions about it, and we will see you out there on the slopes.